We're heading to northern Arizona, home of the famous Route 66, an extinct volcanic field, golden aspens, the Grand Canyon, and the tallest peak in all of Arizona, which we're heading to the top of. So join me as we head to one of my favorite places, Flagstaff, Arizona. When you think of Arizona, you probably think of views like this, including triple-digit temperatures and sweltering heat. And that's why I love Flagstaff, a four-season city found in northern Arizona that goes against the stereotype. Up here at 7,000 feet, you'll find beautiful green pine forests, cinder cone mountains with a volcanic past, including the highest point in Arizona, Humphrey's Peak. In addition, there's 3 unique national monuments and a gateway to one of the most spectacular parks found in America, the Grand Canyon. So let's waste no more time and dive right in, starting with the charming, if not busy, historic downtown Flagstaff. Nestled at the base of Mount Eldon, the city's downtown boasts a number of shops, restaurants, cafes, and other worthwhile attractions. Let's start with the name. So, there is an actual Flagstaff, pictured here, and the story goes that the original Flagstaff was raised for the United States' centennial on July 4th, 1876. And while there's some variations to this, the name stuck. Flagstaff was, and still is, a railroad hub. Do you like trains? Do you like stopping for them too? If so, Flagstaff is the place for you. A train passes through here every 8 to 15 minutes, with over 100 a day making the journey. Like this one I followed here, coming in from the Painted Desert. If you wanted an idea of the remarkable difference in geography from only about an hour east of Flagstaff, this right here is a pretty good indicator. And should you feel like watching trains from downtown Flagstaff, you won't have any trouble. Flagstaff's train tracks run parallel to one of the most famous highways in America, one that Steinbeck dubbed the Mother Road. It's Route 66, of course, well marked along the way here. Feel like getting your kicks? That's about as good of a segue as I have into one of my favorite parts of downtown, the beer scene. There's around 8 craft breweries and or brew pubs in, or at least near, historic downtown. From Mother Road Brewing here, to Lumberyard near the train tracks, to the eclectic Dark Sky Brewing Company on the other side of town. There's more than a few places to sit back and enjoy a good pint, either before or after exploring some of the historic buildings. Like the Hotel Monte Vista, or the Hotel Weatherford, where every New Year's they don't have a ball drop, but a pine cone drop instead. And yes, of course, both hotels are proudly haunted. I personally had an experience with the ghost of the Meat Man during my stay at the Monte Vista. You probably want more information on that, don't you? Some stories are better left untold. Flagstaff isn't just famous for its roads, beer, and apparently ghosts, though. Home to Northern Arizona University and the Lumberjacks as well, this city is a mix of different cultures, including a proud and popular outdoors community too. Of course, there's that big hole in the ground 90 minutes to the north, and these incredibly large mountains nearby that you can climb. But before we get to those, or the acres upon acres of beautiful national forest around it, let's visit the 3 national monuments that are found near Flagstaff: Walnut Canyon, Wupatki, and Sunset Crater Volcano. Starting with what is likely the least visited of the 3, located about 15 minutes outside of town heading east, Walnut Canyon National Monument is, as you've probably guessed, a canyon. One made of a mixture of sandstone and limestone, dotted with a variety of plant life, including pinyon pine and juniper trees. The thing that makes this place even more special are the abundance of Sinagua ruins found in the cliffsides, dating around 900 years old, give or take a bit. This is a National Park administered site, meaning you'll need to pay the $25 entrance fee or present an annual pass. From the visitor center, the 0.8-mile round-trip island trail leads down into the canyon, along the cliff, and up to some of these ruins. It's a little steep, so take your time if you're not accustomed to the elevation. There's about 300 feet of it on this one. The ruins are absolutely fascinating. It's mind-blowing to me that people live down here. Keen eyes across the canyon will notice even more ruins tucked under far, far less accessible cliff edges too. In the grand scheme of things, these Sinagua didn't stay long, only about 125 years before leaving. It's speculated that drought, or perhaps danger from neighboring tribes, is what drove them off. And Walnut Canyon isn't the only national monument featuring ancient ruins near Flagstaff. This time we're heading 40 minutes north of the city, bypassing Sunset Crater Volcano, just for now, and heading to Wupatki National Monument, where the cinder cones begin to grow smaller and smaller, and the desert plains open up to the north, where the soil is black and volcanic, and water is harder to find, is another collection of incredible Pueblo ruins. Wupatki, meaning long-cut house in the Hopi language, has several areas with a variety of these ruins. The first are the Lomaki and Box Canyon ruins, accessed by a 0.7-mile round-trip trail. A handful of structures are found along this one, often perched near shorter cliff edges. Some of these even have interiors that can be carefully explored, too. The premier attraction is the Lomaki ruin, Lomaki meaning beautiful house in the Hopi language. Featuring 9 rooms, this is one of the larger ones found in the park. But not the largest. So, let's move on to this place's namesake, the Wupatki Pueblo. Located down the road and behind the visitor center, where you'll need to pay the entrance fee or show your park pass, the 1,500-year-old Wupatki Pueblo was huge, essentially a hub for this community. It consisted of 104 different rooms, and even had a ball court attached to it, which you can walk through now. My favorite structure in the park is found a little ways down the road, though, and that's okay, since this road connects directly to Sunset Crater Volcano National Monument, where we're heading shortly. First, take the turn off to the left towards the Wupatki Pueblo. This 8-room structure is extremely picturesque, standing all by itself with the desert plains as a perfect backdrop. A short trail leads up to Wupatki, where you're free to respectfully explore the interior of the structure. If you're curious why people settled out here specifically, there is actually an answer. We're standing on top of the San Francisco volcanic field, and like I mentioned, many, if not most of the mountains you see in this area are volcanoes. Extinct volcanoes, but that obviously wasn't always the case. One of the most prominent, besides the San Francisco peaks themselves, is Sunset Crater. Its last eruption was roughly 1,000 years ago, and it gave enough warning for the Sinagua and other peoples here to evacuate and resettle out in what is now Wupatki. Standing just under 1,000 feet tall, Sunset Crater is a classic cinder cone volcano. Last erupting around 1085 AD, this volcano is long extinct. Side note, all the drone footage is from the bordering national forest, not within the monument itself, since this is a National Park Service administered site. While you can no longer hike to the summit of Sunset Crater due to erosion, there is a short trail around its base for a closer look. If you're dying to hike to the top of a volcano though, the short 1-mile loop trail up Lenox Crater nearby might be for you then. You get some really great views of the San Francisco peaks from here too. And across the street from that, you'd be remiss not to notice the gigantic black, jagged lava flow covering the earth. Want to hike on it? Then you're in luck. The Lava Trail at 0.2 miles round trip is a short excursion out onto this alien-looking landscape. Of course, if hiking isn't your thing, I recommend stopping by Bonito Park, near the monument's southern entrance, for a wonderful view of Sunset Crater. Especially at sunset. If hiking is your thing, however, and you want maybe the second best view of Sunset Crater, then do the O'Leary Peak Trail. O'Leary Peak being yet another extinct volcano that we've actually seen a few times already. It's this one here. It's technically in the Coconino National Forest bordering Sunset Crater, and not so much a trail as a service road to the fire lookout on top. But 10 miles round trip gives you some expansive views of the lava flows, the volcanic field, including many other cinder cones, and a look down into Sunset Crater itself. If the fire tower is manned, it's at the discretion of the occupant if you can come up or not. If there's no one up there, then you can only climb about half the staircase. I say second best view because from the mountains behind us, those San Francisco peaks, and namely Humphrey's Peak, you can see into Sunset Crater and beyond, including the Grand Canyon some 80 miles away. Of course, we'll get there in due time. For now, let's stick with the volcanoes and the Coconino National Forest, and head underground for one of the most unique spots found near Flagstaff. This is Lava River Cave, formed roughly 700,000 years ago when lava from a nearby volcanic vent erupted. The top, sides, and bottom of the flow cooled first, while the lava in the center kept flowing before eventually emptying out entirely, leaving behind these lava tubes. Find this cave tucked away in the Coconino National Forest, about a 35-minute drive from Flagstaff. While the cave itself is open year-round, the forest road that leads to it is closed in the wintertime. Speaking of winter, regardless of the season, the temperature in the cave is generally between 35 and 45 degrees Fahrenheit, so you'll probably want to pack some warmer gear. Bring at least 2 sources of light as well, and not just your cell phone. A headlamp is essential, and something to use as a backup. There is absolutely no light down here. From the parking lot, it's a short, completely level 0.3-mile hike to the cave's entrance. As for the cave itself, it's about 3/4 of a mile to the very back of it once inside. This large hole in the ground is, as you've probably guessed, the cave's entrance. Get your gear ready, including that headlamp and some sturdy boots, and make your way down. The descent to the cave floor can be just a little tricky, as you need to navigate down these often loose boulders. Slow and careful footing will eventually see you to the bottom. There's a couple of spaces where you might need to duck down just a little bit, but not too much. I will say, even once you're off the boulder field and onto more level ground, the cave's floor is often uneven and covered in rocks of all shapes and sizes. It's up to you how far in you want to go, and the further back, the more it will open up. Don't worry about getting lost. There's really only one way in and out. I do recommend going at least as far as this point, where most of the popular photos of this place are taken, where the cave actually branches off into 2 separate tubes. This branch isn't long-lived, rejoining into a single tube not far ahead. To the right becomes narrow with a very low ceiling, while to the left is over 30 feet high and easy to navigate. Here is where I stopped to do a little extra filming. This point is only about 1/3 of the way into Lava River Cave, though the ceiling does start to get lower and lower the further back you get. On this particular trek, I was on a bit of a time crunch. With summer monsoon storms rolling in, I wanted to be back to the car in case it was a bad one. It ended up being a minor storm, and not the worst I'd experienced in Flagstaff. Summer storms are a common occurrence here, especially up in the mountains. It was why, when it came time to hike Humphreys, I would need to start that one pretty early in the morning. We're not hiking to the top of that Flagstaff volcano just yet, and instead are heading to a completely different and extremely unique one about 40 minutes north of town. This is Red Mountain, a volcano that you can actually hike into the center of. With views more resembling Bryce Canyon, Utah than anything else around Flagstaff, this is a true semi-hidden gem. And at only 2.7 miles round trip and essentially flat, depending on how close you want to get to these red spires in its amphitheater, It's easily accessible. Standing roughly 1,000 feet tall, Red Mountain is still a part of the San Francisco volcanic field, and close in age to those lava tubes we just visited, at around 740,000 years old. And how the stunning amphitheater in the caldera's center was formed is still not known. Regardless, it's incredible, and how often can you say you got to stand in the middle of a volcano? Well marked by signage from the road, turn in and begin the short drive to the parking area. This road is a little rough in spots, but slow and steady will see most vehicles in, and again, it's a short ride. Park and simply begin the trail. Red Mountain is prominent in the distance, and this trail is super straightforward. The closer you get, the more recognizable the view is. Just watch out for elk carcasses if you're trying to film yourself by way of drone and not paying attention to what's in front of you. Whoops! Not going to stop and think about what happened to this beast, but instead keep on going. Reaching the caldera's edge, this short ladder will lead you into the interior. And then you find yourself among these incredible red rock spires. Take it all in. And push forward if you'd like. It's a steep hike to go higher, but this is some of the grippiest rock I've ever been on. So careful balance and footing actually makes it easier than it looks to head up. A wonderful rest spot. I still can't get over this view. I don't know if these are considered hoodoo similar to Bryce. Probably not. And still, that's really what Red Mountain reminded me of. But we've made our way a bit north of Flagstaff, which means we're even closer now to one of the most popular attractions near here. One that people come from around the world to see. Grand Canyon National Park. While the list of the world's natural wonders is fluid at best, this place certainly deserves a permanent spot on it. 277 miles long, its widest point being 18 miles, and 1 mile deep, it's no wonder people come from far and wide to see it. Photographs and videos simply do it no justice, though I'll certainly try. The road along the south rim has a variety of pull-offs and viewpoints. Several short trails lead to other views, and yes, it is possible to hike to the bottom, though that trail is not short, nor is it recommended as a day journey. From Grand Canyon Village, you can find views like this one from Mather Point. Or over here, closer to the famous Bright Angel Trailhead. Simply stunning, and a must-see. As for the boring stuff, Grand Canyon is a national park, meaning you'll need to show an annual pass or pay the $35 entrance fee to get in. Whether you're doing an extended trip or just visiting for the day, you won't be disappointed, especially if it's your first time at Grand Canyon National Park. But it's time to head back toward Flagstaff. Kind of, that is. We're actually heading closer to the town of Williams, Arizona, back into the National Forest, and to a semi-famous, if not seasonal, waterfall. If you thought I was talking about Grand Falls, you'd be wrong. That's on the other side of Flagstaff, and permanently closed to the public, by the way. No, we're heading to Sycamore Falls instead. Similar to Grand Falls, though, you need a little luck to actually catch this one running in the form of melting snow or recent heavy rainfall. I won't lie to you. It's a bit of a long and bumpy ride down some forest roads to this one. And it's best to keep those factors I mentioned in mind. Springtime being the best for any snowmelt. Once in the parking lot, it's a relatively short, half-mile round-trip trail through some beautiful forest down to the Sycamore Rim. This canyon is pretty cool looking. And we even spotted some climbers on it this particular day. What we did not spot, though, was a waterfall. Visiting in late August, despite a little bit of rain recently, didn't yield us any luck. Sycamore Falls was as dry as it could be, unfortunately. So here's that photo again of what it should look like. That being said, The views here are a little more unique than what I've come to find in the National Forest, with this small canyon and whatnot. You can't win them all, I suppose, so let's head on back to Flagstaff. Except we're going right past it, about 50 minutes south actually, and into the heart of Arizona's Red Rock country. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Sedona in this video. I have quite a few videos about this place, the main one which I'll link above and in the description below. But for now, I'm just going to hit a few of the highlights. Rich in mystic culture, outdoor adventure, and yes, those famous red sandstone mountains. Sedona is a must-visit when up here in northern Arizona. You'll find plenty to do in the city proper, and for the sake of timing in this video, I'm just going to briefly mention 3 of my favorite trails. First is a Sedona staple, Devil's Bridge. Did I say favorite trails? I won't lie, this one probably isn't. But it's likely the most popular one found here, and I suppose if you've never been, it's worth doing. Not to be so pessimistic, it's just very crowded. My advice, start this one early. It's around 4 miles round trip and relatively easy, save for the final scramble. Worth it though for that classic photo of yourself out on the bridge, right? Maybe. By the way, most, but not all of the trails in Sedona require either a Red Rock or National Park annual pass. Red Rock passes can be purchased at kiosks found at most trailheads too. The next is another busy Sedona staple, a formation prominent from quite a few places around the city, and maybe, just maybe, the main symbol of this place. Cathedral Rock. Find this sandstone structure on, well, a lot of the merchandise and signage around Sedona. If you'd like a closer view, you can hike up to it by way of a steep 1.1 mile round-trip trail. It's another very busy one, so again, I'd recommend an early start. The views from the top are unbeatable, and you can even find a famous Sedona vortex site up here. If you don't feel like hiking it, I recommend checking out the view of Cathedral Rock from Crescent Moon Ranch, a tranquil picnic area found behind it, with some really nice views, especially at sunset. My last Sedona trail is a tad more challenging, but provides one of my favorite panoramic views of the area. At just under 5 miles round trip and close to 2,000 feet elevation, Bear Mountain is definitely a workout. From the top, you get this amazing sweeping view of the landscape and so many Sedona icons. And behind you to the north, you'll easily spot Humphrey's Peak. So, maybe it's time we head back that way. I mentioned Flagstaff is a 4-season city, and come wintertime, expect snow here and all of the fun that brings. From skiing up at the Arizona Snowbowl, to winter hiking and snowshoeing opportunities. And Buffalo Park, found here just outside of historic downtown, is a great place to try that out. Wonderful to visit year-round, we decided to try out a little snowshoeing here one winter, making our way through the park and to the base of Mount Eldon. I'm not sure how keen I am on snowshoeing, but it was overall a fun adventure to the rocks near Eldon, including this small cave that we explored. But speaking of Snowbowl and the mountains, let's finally make our way up toward Humphreys, and for now, jump back a season into autumn in one of Flagstaff's most iconic sites. Its famous golden aspens. Come fall, these slender, white-barked trees' leaves turn from green to a brilliant gold, and their groves are absolutely spectacular. Practically glowing in the golden hour sunlight, a walk through them is simply mesmerizing. While patches of them can be found and easily spotted in the fall along the mountains here, one of the best spots is the Aspen Nature Loop, located at the Arizona Snowbowl. Ironically, also where the trail up to the top of Humphreys begins from. At just under 2 miles round trip, this one is a breeze. Park in the lower Snowbowl parking lot and follow the signs. You'll quickly see the grove in the distance. It really stands out. Make your way on over and take in the magic. like I mentioned, a visit closer to sunset's golden hour, or perhaps sunrise too, makes the grove even better. The only thing that I'm not sure about is that the new chairlift up the mountain starts from in here now. I don't know how that's going to affect the Aspen viewing experience, though I imagine you should be able to wander far enough away from it to still enjoy this place. Kind of speaking of chairlifts, or an enclosed one in this case, the nearby gondola ride is a great way to get expansive views of the area from higher up without having to hike. Gently gliding up the mountain with forest views and aspen pockets on either side before exiting at the top for a look around. Tell me this isn't nice. I've included a link in the description if you're interested in purchasing gondola tickets. And on the ride back down, I couldn't help but take a look at Humphrey's up there. Which means it's time. Standing at 12,633 feet, Humphrey's is the tallest mountain in the state of Arizona and highest of the San Francisco peaks. Like I mentioned, these are all volcanic peaks. These peaks used to be one large volcano, San Francisco Mountain, until either an eruption, erosion, or some combination of both removed about 4,000 feet from the mountain and instead left a handful of smaller ones. I know I just showed fall footage, but I was actually hiking Humphrey's in the summer. It's worth noting that up until the late spring, or maybe even early summer, there is likely to be snow on top of Humphrey's. And the trouble with visiting in the summer, once that snow is melted, is Arizona's monsoon season. Turbulent afternoon storms that frequently form. And you probably don't want to be at the tallest point in the entire state when one of these rolls through. Especially because they have a habit of forming directly on top of Humphrey's. Cold air on one side meeting the warm air on the other side of the mountain makes for some angry weather, which I would unfortunately be finding out. Regardless, I still got an early start, leaving my hotel in Flagstaff by 5 a.m. and onto the trail by 6 a.m. Most storms had been forming by about noon, so I wanted ample time to complete this hike before that happened. It's 9.7 miles round trip to the top of Humphrey's and back down, with close to 3,400 feet of elevation. This is a tougher one, no doubt. I'd be starting at the same parking lot as the Aspen Loop, but instead following the signs upward for Humphrey's. The trail is well marked, though do note the beginning will probably be a little different when you do it. The first mile or so was rerouted during my trek up due to construction. Eventually, open meadow turns into dense forest. Dense forest and lots of switchbacks. So, keep heading up. You'll really want to be mindful of your footing on this trail. Exposed roots are everywhere and easy to trip over. Coming to a clearing and boulder field, I got a little bit of an idea of just how far up I'd come. Getting a nice view of a cinder cone off in the distance, too. Still a ways to go, though, so I continued on. Sunrise had come, and the forest below was covered in golden light. I started catching glimpses of what I thought was Humphrey's Peak at first, but in reality was a different one. Maybe Fremont Peak? I'd get a better view once I made it above the tree line and reached the saddle. Which I eventually did, though I won't lie, my legs were feeling it at this point. I took a long break at the saddle junction, a little disheartened that I still had close to a mile and another 1,000 feet to go before summiting. But the views from here, a mix of black and red hues in the rock, and another expansive view of the volcanic field itself. I could see O'Leary Peak and Sunset Crater off in the distance. They looked so much smaller from up here, and what a way to realize just how high I was now. Eventually, it was time to continue on. Speaking of volcanic rock, that's what I would be hiking on now, as opposed to soil and over tree roots. This gravel is slippery and a slog to move through, at least for me, as I watched numerous trail runners already making their way down the mountain past me. Not much else to do but keep pushing. I definitely had to stop for a few breaks during this section. A great excuse to appreciate the views around and behind me though. Admiring the other peaks up here from a lot closer up than I was used to. I was pretty gassed by the last stretch, and I might have wandered just a bit off trail at least once. Eventually, finally, I popped out on the summit, marked here by sign. And what a view! I could see so much from up here. The rest of the San Francisco peaks, so much of the volcanic field, and while a bit hazy, even some of Sedona to the south and the Grand Canyon to the north. Nothing short of incredible, and I definitely felt accomplished, and of course made sure to grab some shots with the sign. I couldn't help but notice that there were some clouds forming up here. Though quick moving, they were still relatively peaceful looking. Still, I had that feeling that maybe I shouldn't linger too long, so I took in the last of the views and started making my way down. And it's a good thing I left when I did, because maybe a half an hour later, heading down the saddle, I turned to look at the summit, and this is what I saw. There were a lot more clouds now, and getting darker by the minute. Probably another half hour later, the thunder started, and by the time I reached the meadow by the trail's beginning, I had been caught in a full-blown storm. Welcome to summer in the mountains, I suppose. There's a lot more to do and see around Flagstaff too, and you can bet that I'll be back sooner than later. Until the next time.